What up, people? We appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode of Everyday Talk with BCole and ARice. So sit back and enjoy. Cheer.
Hardly home, but always repping.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Appreciate y'all tuning in to episode 2 of Everyday Talk with BCole and ARice, where again you're gonna hear everyday talk from two ordinary guys. But today, we got a special guest on the line with us today. My main man from VSU, Tail Dog, Risk Factor. But today we're gonna call him Eddie Kane. Hey, Eddie, say what's up to the folks, man.
Hey, what's going on, everybody out there? First, I'd like to give a big thank you to ARice and BCole for having me on their show. Seems like we're going to get some good talking in, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. BCole, you there, man? What's good with you, boy?
Yes, sir, man. What's good, man? Like my boy ARice said, appreciate y'all for tuning in. And by the way, that's Valdosta State, not Virginia State. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we gotta get it right, man. The real VSU. Hey, they know, man.
Hey, but
we're gonna, you know it. We're gonna dive right into the topics, though, man. So, first thing I had on the list for today, you know, we getting down to the end of the NBA season or whatever. So, outside of, you know, people winning the championship, who's gonna win, Golden State, Houston, whatever, can LeBron get one? You know, the next big talk is the league MVP. So I know that's something that goes back and forth every year. There's always controversy about who wins the MVP, who should it be. And this year, you know, the big three names that you hear is James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and your boy LeBron James. So I just want to hear your thoughts, Eddie, on the league MVP. Like, what do you think that should be based off of? Right now, I think it's James Harden. You know, he's doing his thing, but again, Russell Westbrook about to average a triple-double again, like he did last year. He was MVP last year, so what's the difference? So I just want to hear your thoughts on the MVP and what that really should mean.
Yeah, definitely. I think the MVP should mean exactly what it stands for, the most valuable player. So in my perspective, when you're talking about the MVP, it should be based on a lot of things that basketball player contributes throughout the season. I think that MVP has a lot to do with popular choice. But I also think MVP should be driven by statistics as well. So if we're talking about assists, if we're talking about points, if we're talking about team ball and the amount of wins that this team has been able to achieve throughout the season, then I think that MVP is a justifiable, discussion that should be had in regards to that. With my perspective, I think James Harden should be definitely in the top talks as far as MVP and what he's been able to do throughout this year and the cast that he's had throughout the season with the Houston Rockets. Now, we know it's all easy to prospect LeBron for the MVP, but if you were to talk about statistics and what James Harden's been able to do throughout the season, then I think that he should probably be number one in regards to MVP.
Hey, so I see what you're saying, Eddie, but the thing is, I mean, LeBron, everybody know LeBron be putting the team on his back, you know, doing his thing that way. And Russell Westbrook, I mean, the dude is averaging a triple-double, dog. You know what I mean? And James Harden has Chris Paul with him. So with that being said, I mean, a lot of people can talk about you need multiple superstars, that kind of thing. We talking about the same James Harden from last year. So if we talking about last year, Westbrook won it over Harden, and they was pretty much kind of doing the same type of stuff. You know what I mean? This year, the only difference is Harden got the number one seed. So, Brian, like, do you think that should matter? So because they got the best team now on record, they should be the MVP?
I kind of agree with what Eddie was saying. To me, MVP means the best team player. And in my opinion, I would have to wholeheartedly say that James Harden is that person. And I guess to elaborate on that, you got Russell Westbrook. You know, he plays really selfish at times. And then on the other side, you have LeBron James, who at times can be a diva. You know, he complains a whole lot. He puts the blame on, you know, whether it's management or him not having the best supporting cast.
That's true. That's true.
So, right. And then you look at James Harden, who when he was with the Thunder, he was considered, I guess a liability, or clearly they didn't feel like he was able to grow into the superstar that he is now. And as soon as he went to the Rockets, I mean, immediately that team became a legitimate playoff team. James Harden, wow, let me say this also too. James Harden, while we know he has horrible defense, he still never complains. And the main reason why I don't even consider Russell Westbrook in this conversation, to me, the only two players that should be considered in this conversation are LeBron James and James Harden. Russell Westbrook, while he gives 120%, we definitely do see his teammates allowing him to pad those stats to get to that triple-double.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you. But, again, when you're talking about most valuable player, like, if you take James Harden off his team, I mean, are they still a playoff team? So when we saying valuable, I mean, what is considered valuable? I mean, yeah, he got the stats. Yeah, he is the leader of the team. All these are the leader of their team, but without one of these players, I mean, which team would drop the most? So that's kind of how I look at MVP a little bit. That's how I think it should be. But I feel like every year the criteria change. Because you can say one year the MVP is just the best player on the best team. Let's say like this year. Last year it was because, we have somebody that's averaging the triple-double. That nobody done that in 60-something, however long it's been since Oscar Robertson. In years before that, LeBron James been averaging the same stats for his whole career, really.
When you asked me that question, the first thing I thought about, and I know we're talking about basketball, but when you asked that question, I immediately thought about football, and I thought about who we talked about last week, the greatest player in football, Tom Brady. If we would have took him off of that team, would they still have made the playoffs? Yes. So if I'm going to say that they still would have made the playoffs because of their system, and because of the supporting cast, the system that they have, it seems like they can plug and play and put anybody in there. It's just that they so happen to have one person who is a genius at that particular system. And I think James Harden is a genius at this system, the run and gun type West Coast version of basketball. I think James Harden just simply thrives in this. But if we take James Harden off that team, they still make the playoffs, but I think that James Harden just takes it to a whole completely different level.
Gotcha. Now I feel what you're saying. So if he wouldn't have got rid of Kardashian, would they still be in the playoffs? That's the real question we should be asking right now, man. But that's real though, man. But it's that time though. It's that time of year, man. So I mean, playoffs gonna be exciting, man. It's gonna be a lot going on with the playoffs. So we're gonna see how it finishes up. Of course, I think James gonna win it, James Harden. But we're gonna see what happens with that.
Yep. And
go ahead.
just to add one thing, just to add on to what we've been talking about here and what Brian has been saying. If you think about, let me throw out another thought for you. If you think about the one player that's been able to create isolation points and be efficient with isolation points, then James Harden's name is going to probably be at the top of that list. And I think definitely. That's what really makes James Harden a special player this year is number one, he's able to create a lot of isolation points. I think he's more clutch. And if you look at that leadership role, he's been able to hold a true leadership in Houston. He's the heartbeat of Houston for many years since he's been there. And then also, if you talk about his shooting percentage, I mean, does he have a better shooting percentage than LeBron James? A true shooting percentage is what I'm talking about. The amount of field goals that he scores versus the field goals that he does not score. Is it better than LeBron James?
I don't know, but I know he shoot more people than everybody, so I give him MVP off of that. I mean, he do it nasty too. I don't know about all those extra stats outside of points, rebounds, assists. I don't know what all the other stuff.
All right,
really
I'm
mean.
gonna answer that question for you. Yes, he is a better shooter than LeBron James. I know that because I'd be killing BCole on NBA 2K with him. So
see, you trying to take this to another different topic, and you first of all, you just let the people know that you a liar.
Already off real, man, and we just introduced him to the fans, man. That's what's up, man. Hey, but I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it rolling though, man. But the next topic is still in sports though. But we kind of touched on this last week a little bit, Brian. When we were talking about Kaepernick. So really, right here, I just kind of want to talk about the racism in sports. I mean, we know racism still exists, you know, as much as it can be denied everywhere. But I mean, for this conversation, I want to kind of keep it primarily in sports, and talk about the racism in sports, and of course, the whole thing's been going on in the NFL for the last couple of years, and even the comments this year, you know, with the shut up and dribble and that kind of stuff. So let me just hear your thoughts on what you think about that whole topic, Brian.
Well, first of all, like we said last week, it's frustrating, and more so it's disappointing that Kaepernick isn't even considered to be brought in for opportunity. When you have we talking about racism, you have somebody like Johnny Manziel, who is clearly nowhere near being a model citizen, but he has been given chance after chance after chance after chance. And even Johnny Manziel himself pretty much said that Kaepernick should have another chance to get into the NFL, and people should stop comparing the two, because he doesn't even deserve to be in the same conversation with him.
Yeah.
While we're talking about racism, it also it also puts you in the mind, when you think about sport, it puts you in the mind of slavery, because and it's specifically football, because football is truth be told, it's predominantly black sport. We see the quarterbacks the position is predominantly played by white men. They always get the max contracts. The rules are always catered to them, so they don't get hurt or injured. Just everything is catered to them, and it's just really sad that we're in 2018, and this is still a conversation. You would hope that by now Martin Luther King's dream would have become a reality, and our kids would be living in a better environment. But I think in today's society, it's just masked a little bit better. They, like I say, they show racism by keeping Colin Kaepernick out of the league, and also they do it by not enforcing rules to the black quarterbacks that play the position. So I mean, it's just frustrating, and it's really a wake up call. It reminds you of how much progress we have not gotten so far.
Yeah, and I agree with you, man. One thing that you said, though, you said like how Kaepernick deserves a second chance and everything like that. But my whole thing is, what did Kaepernick even do wrong in the first place?
I agree.
By exercising the right, whatever like that. But Eddie, let me hear your inputs.
Yeah, so I think this is a touchy subject, right? Because there's a lot of different perspectives that, depending on where you came from, obviously, if you're African American or if you're Caucasian, whatever ethnicity that you are, you're probably going to think a little bit different about this subject. But my honest perspective is that you're talking about the National Football League. And when we're talking about the National Football League, this is a job. And I think it's hard to understand that the NFL is an actual organization, and it's not a recreation team that anybody can walk onto and basically be able to play football. But the National Football League is a taxable business that is an actual organization in the United States of America. So with me saying that, the NFL does have a right to determine who uses its fields, and also has a right to basically be able to voice what type of statement that they want to make about that. Now, I just wanted to get that out there first. That probably upset a lot of people, but that's just what it is. All right.
Yeah, you're right.
The second thing is about the whole Colin Kaepernick situation is to me, it's quite frankly, it's disheartening. And the reason why it's disheartening is if we look back at that original, scenario that happened, basically he was taking a knee during the national anthem last season to protest, African Americans that were being brutalized by police. And ARice, you're in the military. I came from a military family, and Brian, you've been in the military as well. So we all know that we definitely have respect towards the military and what people have done and what soldiers in the military have done for us to be able to live and be able to obviously enjoy freedom. Okay, now with that being said, everybody knows that this issue kind of was always reneged on. Okay, it's kind of the issue that's always forgotten. We all know that it's a problem that we have in America, but who really wants to confront the issue? So I think that the NFL, pretty much from their perspective, is doing a really good job of intimidating their football players or football employees with basically silence. Okay, I don't know if a lot of people understand, but a lot of NFL players, what are they trying to what is the issue that they're trying to show? Okay, do they have less of a problem with criminality that you see among its players versus Colin Kaepernick, who's actually fighting for something that's worth standing upon, which is police brutality. So that's my take on it. I think it's a very touchy issue that we see, but I think there's a lot more bigger problems that's going on in the NFL, such as criminality and other discipline issues that you see, versus Colin Kaepernick, who's actually standing up for police brutality, but unfortunately is kind of taking the burdens of everybody else because of the NFL not wanting to deal with the situation and trying to make an example of him. It really sucks. So,
Hey, Eddie, let me ask you a
does.
question. Let me ask you a question, Eddie. You mentioned that the NFL is an organization and they pretty much get to dictate what stances you publicly take. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay, so speaking on politics, because that's what Colin Kaepernick brought to light, is pretty much it's about politics, right? So
Mhm.
in the same instance, we have the photo child of the NFL, Tom Brady, publicly endorsing and supporting Donald Trump. And the NFL never said anything about that. So what is the message? Is it that we don't want you all to voice your opinion, or is it that we don't want you to go against I guess the people who have the money?
correct.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think, number one, I think the NFL will quite frankly make their own rules because they're the actual organization who can agree and disagree what they see their employees can do and what they can't do. But secondly, I think that the NFL is, a special interest organization. So there's a lot of monies either through sponsorships or fundraising that the NFL is involved in. So they have to be very, very careful about the type of message that they're going to portray to the citizens. So you look at Colin Kaepernick, that's a very dangerous message that he's portraying to some people is, hey, I'm not going to stand during the national anthem, which, by the way, I'm going to tell you right now, in the classroom, I'm a new teacher. Nobody stands for the national anthem anymore. I'm probably the only one that stands for the national anthem. A lot of people and what they feel about the national anthem has definitely changed over the last 30 years. I know back when I was in elementary school, I probably would have been sent to the principal's office if I didn't stand for the national anthem. So I think that the message that Colin Kaepernick is sending rings true to probably African Americans, because guess who's probably kind of at the forefront of police brutality, or at least through the media? Well, it's probably Black Americans. But everybody doesn't see it that way.
Eddie,
So
let me remind you of this, because you kind of I'm not saying that you're making an excuse for the NFL, but again, we have Tom Brady, who is over here, no shame in his support for Donald Trump, and then I guess I'm pointing this out because they say it's okay for him to do that, but I'm gonna take the African American part of the equation out of this situation. You have Josh Rosen, a Caucasian, who is saying F Donald Trump, fuck Donald Trump, and he's being bashed. So really, what is the message? Is it racism, or is it you support the people who have the money which would be the white rich man. Like, it's kind of hard for me to get past. They're sending this message that, you know, you can't voice your opinion when we have a Caucasian man who says F Donald Trump, and they're questioning his character.
Yeah, to me, in my opinion, I mean, I don't think, I mean, Tom Brady's not really in the same situation, because I think with him it's more about him, you know, that's saying who he supports, whatever. Whereas Kaepernick, to them, Kaepernick is being disrespectful. And if you think about how the message has changed over time from when he first took a knee, he'll go out and he said publicly many times what he's taking the knee for. But what does that turn back around into? You know, what do they say? Oh, you disrespecting the military. You know, in America, if you badmouth or, you know what I'm saying, disrespect the military, I mean, that's a big no-no. So people, I feel like people that are shunning Kaepernick, they're not understanding the true point of what he's doing. And we've talked about that. I mean, one of the biggest things he's doing is, you know, the police brutality, the shooting of unarmed black men, that sort of thing, which he started this 2 years ago. Ain't black men still been getting shot unarmed? You know what I mean? So it's not like you can't understand the purpose. It's not like he's just making something pulling something out of the sky. I mean, it's still there. I mean, and I think with Rosen, he's doing the same thing where he's starting to question the whole status quo. And again, you think about NFL owners and just think about the demographic of the NFL owner. I mean, I think it goes without saying. But when you start questioning the status quo and questioning what's been there in place for many years, and you start questioning that, I mean, that's a problem. So to go back to your question, I mean, I think it's really more so about you questioning the people with the money. I mean, again, if when you got kids, right, your kids don't question you. You know what I mean? When it comes to that kind of stuff, at the end of the day, like, they know who's in charge. And I feel like that's the same mentality that a lot of NFL owners have. Like, you know who's in charge. And in the case of Kaepernick, yeah, they're making an example out of him. The thing is, they won't admit to it. But again, they can't have, you know, these freelance thinkers in our league doing whatever they want to do, because again, you got these people that feel like, oh, they taking a knee, we not going to watch the game, or we going to pull our money away because they're being disrespectful to the military, despite what it really is.
Well,
and I agree
Rice,
with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, but the thing about it is, Brian, and then also Rice, is you got to think about who is the consumer of the NFL, you know? So if you look at the consumer of the NFL, then you're going to see a lot of different colors in the color wheel, right? So, you know, from the NFL's perspective, is it a smart thing to allow a franchise quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers to, quite frankly, what they think about it as is bigotry of patriotism? You know, so you got to understand that. I think that it's important for everybody to understand the perspectives of everybody that has struggles dealing with whatever backgrounds they come from, whatever current issues that they have going on. But it's kind of an unsafe position for the NFL to kind of let that roll, okay? Because that can affect a lot of different avenues at different levels, you know, that the NFL is involved in.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. And I understand why the NFL is trying to do that, because, again, I mean, when you're talking about the majority of people in the U.S., where we don't make up the majority. So even then, when you're talking about the pockets and the consumers, I mean, black people are not the majority when it comes to that market. Yeah, we are the majority in playing the sport, but not in the market.
But Rice, you also have to remember that while we aren't black, African Americans aren't the majority, Caucasians aren't the minority. They aren't the majority either. Because it typically is Caucasian and everyone else. You know, if you feel what I'm saying. So my personal opinion, if the NFL was making a smart move, they would shine light on this stuff and say, hey, maybe Colin Kaepernick is right. Change should be brought about, because the U.S. is made up of, like you said, it's a melting pot. So while I think that Colin's message was verbalized as African Americans, but when you really look at the issue, I think he was saying people of color, because people of color they are experiencing the same thing, and the people of color make up the majority if you look at it from that aspect.
Yeah, but for the NFL though, I mean, you're correct on that front. But in the NFL, I mean, if we're turning everything like Eddie said, I mean, they're an organization. Organizations are in the business to make money. So let's think about a majority of where the money comes from in the NFL. I'm pretty sure those at the top that's doing the donations, the sponsors, whatever, most of them, I'm pretty sure, are not going to be minorities. But on that one, we got to, again, that topic right there, man, we can go on forever with that one. But, we got to keep rolling through, man. So this topic right here, this one, I'm going to kind of sit back and just kind of listen to y'all for, because I got to eat every day. You know what I mean? So I got a job I got to protect. So I'm going to let y'all have a little fun with this topic, and I'm gonna catch y'all on the flip side of it. But yeah, kind of goes back into what we were just talking about. The state of our administration right now, president, of course, everybody knows just different controversies and things that go on with that. So I just kind of want to hear y'all thoughts. I mean, what is the perception of the U.S. from other countries now? Just some of your thoughts on the president, and how do you feel, or do you feel that this president's term is going to kind of change how people look to vote in the future, what they think about the qualifications for a president, that sort of thing. So, Eddie, I'll let you get started on this one.
Yeah, sure. I think that's definitely a loaded topic. If we were to think about, I think where a lot of countries are seeing what United States is and what we've kind of turned into is I think that we had the same message, which is, we're a powerful country, right? So I think that's something that's important, and an important message that we should send out with foreign politics and diplomacy is we are still a powerful country. But I think that the approval rating for Donald Trump is probably the same that it was back when he was originally elected, which is, probably somewhere below 60%. And the reason why I say that is because when Trump was first elected, obviously the message that he was, basically campaigning on was a message that was very different, and a message that many people agreed with and many people did not agree with. So you already know that you're at a 50% right now. I think that it's really important for us, as the United States, to be able to have diplomacy not only with foreign politics, but have diplomacy with domestic issues that we have going on in our own country. And that's something I think that we quite haven't been able to sharpen a pencil on, because we still have a lot of issues that linger out there that we really haven't been able to gain any team solution on. So that's my perspective on the country. I think, that's a topic that's going to be a long topic to discuss, but that's kind of my general opinion about it. What you think about it, Brian?
Yeah.
I think it's
at the top and work your way down.
All right.
That exhale of yours said it all.
I mean, it's a known fact that the approval rating for Donald Trump is down. Well, it's probably lower than what it was originally. To answer, I know you asked a particular question. Is it going to change the way people vote, and I guess the requirements in order to be a president? Now, my personal belief on that particular question is, if you work hard and you have pretty much a resume, it may not necessarily be in politics, but in Donald Trump's instance, he is he got banked. He a successful businessman. And in order to be a powerful country, you have to have that guap, right? You got to have that money. So he's premature in his term, but it seems like the job market is elevating. He's keeping a lot of, from what he was saying, he plans to keep a lot of jobs here, which will help a lot of people, because especially when you think about how technology is affecting the workforce, it's taking so many people out of their comfort zone because they can't work. They can't. How can you compete with machines that's able to do anything that you can do, but continuously? So I
Yeah,
think that
you can't.
helps out a lot. Right? You can't compete with that. That helps out a lot. So I mean, and I know most people wouldn't expect me for me to do this, but I can see some positive stuff in Donald. And not to mention, I used to be in the military, as Kane said, and when when I first got out, Obama was still in office, and I promise you, man, I would get so frustrated trying to get my VA disability that I would give up and try it again like a couple of months, but I would consistently try to get my benefits like 3-4 months at a time, getting nowhere at all. The only thing I
Yeah.
was getting out of the situation was more questions. And I talked to my wife and I tried again this year, and truth be told, I got my benefits in a matter of 3 weeks. So, and I know that was one of Donald Trump's initiative is, hey, we're gonna support the veterans, and if you're not doing your job at the VA, which we know that's a huge issue, we getting rid of you. And I think that he is there taking heed to his message that he's sending. So, I mean, it from both points of view, no group of people is gonna just be sold on a person, no matter if it's Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, Obama. Everybody's not gonna like him. So I mean, regardless, my thought is right now he in office, ain't nothing we can do. He got with 2.5 more years or something like that. So I mean, we just got to see if he gonna destroy America or keep us steady.
Yeah. True that. True that. One of the things that you mentioned, though, I do want to throw out there is when we talk about, jobs bringing countries back to America, that kind of thing. Of course, all great things in theory, if they could happen. But
Right.
again, I mean, us having jobs here is all based on like the market globally. So, I mean, do you think that's affected if you don't quite have the best relationships with other countries that you may trade with or, do business with on a global scale?
Well,
Once again, go ahead.
I'm just asking.
well,
See,
I
I don't
think
know. I'm just asking.
if if we truly talk about diplomacy and right now, one of the things that recently just happened is he raised the tariff taxes that we had domestically and exporting out with steel. Well, I think what that does is unfortunately, I think a lot of countries were taking advantage of the United States of America. So I really, quite
Right.
frankly, I do agree with Donald Trump on he's really been able to maximize what we've been able to create and export as far as products out of the United States of America. But I think that what he's doing as far as diplomacy, instead of being Mr. Nice Guy, is he's really trying to fix real issues that I think that we've had for a long time with these trade
Mm-hmm.
policies that the Democrats have had in for 20 plus years to kind of play it
Mm-hmm.
safe. And playing it safe is okay because you really kind of don't get anywhere. But I think Donald Trump is being very aggressive with what he's doing as far as trade talks that necessarily is not playing it safe. But I think at the end of the day, it's really going to allow America to benefit in the end as far as our industry. He has brought a lot of jobs back to America, which I really like. He's been able to take certain industries that we've kind of outsourced for the last 10 to 15 years and really bring that home, which I really like. So, I mean, economically, it really looks like some of the strong sectors that we've seen kind of not move anywhere in the last 10 to 15 years have kind of started moving, and some of the other sectors that has moved pretty progressively in the last 10 to 15 years, such as like clean energy industries, probably has not moved as much as what Obama probably wanted to do because he's repealed some of the, provisions and regulations that he placed when he was in office. So I definitely think Donald Trump is not popular, probably among certain specific groups of people. But I think that he's pretty effective on certain issues that he wants to try to address. It
And,
hasn't
and,
been.
and another thing, I think two things that popped up in my head. Pretty much anytime you look at a product, what does it say? China. I mean, and it's been situations just this past weekend. Kane, you made me think about this. Just this past weekend, my daughter said, "Wow, why everything say China? Everything come from China." And that's one of the things that us is adults realize too. If a child is realizing that, us as adults realize it. And who does the U.S. owe the most money to? China. So I think Donald Trump approach is saying, "Hey, we already owe them so much money. If we keep going the route that we at, they're gonna get mad. They're gonna want their money back. They already got the most people in the world. That's a problem we don't want. I don't care how powerful we are. The military weapons that we have is gonna run out at some point. And what do we do then? Like that's just real. So Donald Trump, while he did say, I guess you really have to sit down and have a talk with him by what exactly did he mean by make America great again? Because when he initially said it, it was just a lot of racial tension going on at that time. That's when the police shootings really, really escalated back in the summer of whatever. It was back in the summer. And by him saying make America great again, you could have looked at it as, okay, put like a white supremacy type thing, or is it to like Eddie said, bring those jobs back, make the American dollar valuable again. So I guess it's really what did he mean by make America great again? Because what I'm actually seeing from him, his actions is bringing those jobs back, giving the American people an opportunity to support their families.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll kind of end it with just this little thought on that. So, I mean, my thing is, I mean, every inauguration, every time you're going through the primaries for president, I mean, things are said all the time. Oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this and that, whatever. 4 years later, none of it's done. I mean, you got people that went out and voted for Obama in record numbers, but then after he was, after his term ended, people kind of had things to say because they felt like they felt like he should have did more or this and that wasn't done. Not saying it was the fault of him. I mean, again, it's, how it works in politics. I mean, it takes multiple players between the Senate, the courts and all that good stuff. So my thing is, I mean, he says what he's going to do. I mean, will it happen years from now? And even again, when we're talking about the bringing jobs back, if we look at the chain reaction of that, I mean, people go overseas and build things overseas is because it's cheaper. It being cheaper over there, and then even with the taxes and shipping to get it over here, it's still cheaper. I mean, you make it in America, that's cool. Our minimum wage is what it is. Of course, everybody knows in other countries, they don't per se have those laws. So you get it over here, and now you're paying people $10 an hour, which I'm not disagreeing with. So I don't want to, but you get people over here, you're paying $10 an hour. And doesn't that just mean overall the consumer, which is us, the ones that would actually see the effect of it, are going to kind of be more, struggling a little bit more to buy the necessary goods. I mean, if a gallon of milk is, $10 because of whatever, because of that whole chain reaction. I mean, again, it comes to a point that, what do you do? There's always going to be that give and take sort of thing. I mean, at one point you're making one group happy, but you're kind of doing it at the expense of somebody else. So again, we can make America great, but who's at whose expense are we making it great again? I mean, we are in a capitalistic system where everybody is meant for everybody not to succeed. You can't be at the top if there's nobody at the bottom. You know what I mean? So with that being said, I just think that's one of the things that we got to continue to think about. You can talk a big game all day. I mean, the job of a politician, I've always heard, is to get reelected. So, I mean, I guess right now we'll just kind of wait and see how this plays out, fellas. And we're going to keep it moving on to our last topic of the night. So I was watching Jay-Z and David Letterman on Netflix, and they had a good something that David Letterman brought up to Jay-Z was about the use of the N-word and how it's portrayed in the community and if people should use it and that whole thing. So Ed, I just want to get your thoughts of it first. The use of the N word, and of course, I'm just saying that to be politically correct right now. But what are your thoughts on people using it? Do you feel like it's a negative thing if people do use it? Just kind of let me hear your thoughts on that word in particular.
One word, no. That's my view on it.
Well,
But
that was quick.
But all right. So let me kind of take it from maybe a 13-year-old. So my perspective on the N word, because a lot of rappers use it, right? You know, we hear it a good amount in music. I think that the N word, to be politically correct, just like you said, has really changed in as far as context and also what people really understand what that word means. I think that term has changed over the past 30 years that we've seen and how that word has been used. Now, with that being said, my perspective is quite honestly, that word should never be used. If you look at the history of how that word was used in the context that that word was used as well, then I really don't think, especially our young population, they understand the meaning that comes along with that word, that they quite frankly just kind of use in everyday language and terms. And to their defense, they're just listening to music and the social Instagram, Twitter, whatever's popular in music right now, because they use it. They feel like they can use it because they're just kind of singing a song, you know.
So let me ask you this though, Ed. I don't mean to cut you off, but I mean again, do you think that by saying that it's a restricted word or whatever, that you're not allowing the word to kind of be diluted into how we use it today anyway? You know, I mean, to say, oh well, no, nobody can use that word. You don't feel like that in itself kind of gives it more power and the ability to mean more, you know, to have more of a negative connotation?
And real quick, Eddie, before you answer that, I'm agreeing with what you saying, ARice, because if we talking about the word nigga, I'm gonna just keep it 100. Okay, so I think it's okay for certain people to use it, and those certain people are black people. And I say that because, like you said, by us using it more, it takes the harsh meaning out of it, as if it would have, if we was in the 1950s or 40s. Because if you think about it, saying bitch, and if you were referring to a female back in the day, like, that was trouble. Still today, a dude can't say that to a female, but women have used it.
But a girl will say it to each other.
Right, and they took the harshness out of that word within themselves, because they were the ones who it was used to use as an insult.
Derogatory.
So they kind of derogatory. They took that factor out of the equation, but yet and still they are the only ones who can use it amongst each others. And I feel the same way about the word nigga. Like, to me, I guess it's to me. And, you know, I could have this conversation with an elder and they probably feel totally different. But to me, nigga mean you my dude. Like, I mess with you the long way, the short way, medium, it don't matter. Like, we through thick and thin.
Yeah.
So I guess for me, for it to be used against amongst a certain people, it's okay to me. Versus, you know, the meaning totally changes when other people use it.
Yeah, and I do feel that way with any word, really. I mean, you can really take any word in the dictionary and turn it, and the tone and how you use it or the context, I mean, you can make it mean something completely different. I mean, again, like the bitch ain't I mean, of course, you know who and who not to say it to, that kind of thing. But again, it doesn't hold the same type of, it's not frowned upon as much as saying the word nigga. You know what I mean? So I'm with you.
And like you said, if you go to the root of nigger or nigger, when you really look at the root of the word, it came from negro, which, truth be told, it means black. So, but like you said, it's the way that it's used and the people who use it in the context that they use it that changes the whole meaning of it. they started, certain group of people started calling us nigger, and that changed the whole meaning of the word, but the root word is still negro, which is black. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it all depends on what's your delivery.
But all right,
And so I mean, do you take that into account, Eddie?
no, okay, and here's the reason why is all right. Back in the 40s, the 50s, 60s, the 70s, shoot, really the early 80s, if you want to kind of really look about the true time span here. Do you think in the early 50s or the early 40s, do you think that you probably had black brothers like ourselves calling each other the N word? Well, really,
Not as much as today.
before the 1920s, do you think that they were calling each other the N word?
No, but like I said, also at the same time, you didn't hear women calling each other bitches. You didn't hear men saying she thick, and that was a compliment.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm gonna let you get to your point though, Eddie. But now, I mean, I'm gonna say at that point they weren't saying that word, freely.
Okay. So is the N word, is it an adjective or is it a noun?
Um, it depends on who
Damn,
said it,
you got
right?
that grammar. I'm gonna say adjective. I'm describing Brian as my nigga.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, again,
So
yeah, go
see,
ahead.
that's my issue with it. Okay, is it's really no safe context to really be
Hmm.
able to use that word. And quite honestly, if you have someone that's uneducated and Brian walks into the room and says, "Hey, what's up, my negro?" Okay, I'm not going to say the word. I'm just going to say the N word. Okay, and you
Hmm.
have someone that's uneducated, that's young, and they have no idea about why Brian can use that term or the context that he's using this term. They just automatically assume that that's an okay term to say. Then can you be mad at that person for saying it if they honestly don't know the background, the history, and the perspective that comes with that term? So I think you have to be very careful about what you put into the public, because what you put into the public may persuade the public to feel like they're safe to use that term. So I quite honestly, I really don't think using the N word gives us any more power than what we've already had as black people. I think that we can, quite frankly, just know that that word exists and hopefully forget about that term, because there's a lot of obstacles, struggles. There's a lot of uh, pain, just a lot of negative connotations that have came along with the N word, and that is the exact reason why I don't use it. Okay, that's my personal reason for me not using it. I'd rather say my brother. Okay, uh, versus the N word, because there's just so much that comes along with that word that I don't think really nobody can understand unless you were in that type of circumstance. I definitely have been called that word, me being in the South, uh, when I was like 11 and 12 years old. Okay, and I fought over that word in the street when I was, in my neighborhood and at that age. So I just don't believe that because I'm black I should use that
Yeah,
term. That's my perspective.
and yeah, and I get what you're saying, and again, that's definitely easily one of the easiest fighting words that you got out there. But again, if somebody randomly walks up to you and calls you a punk, or calls you a bitch, or calls you
Right.
a no good boy, I mean, those are still fighting words too. So the thing is, I mean, we're not. I'm not really saying that the word can be used by anybody. Again, it's all about the context to me. Should the word be a word that if you say it, everybody in the room gasps? Not, I mean, again, people should be cognizant of where they're using it and that kind of thing. I mean, of course. But I do see your point. I mean, if somebody's uneducated to it, then they don't know. I mean, that's kind of some education that can be made there. Uh, Other than that,
Real quick,
I think the word should be acceptable.
real quick. Eddie said that for somebody to be ignorant of that word, and personally for me, and the U.S., it's impossible for a person to be ignorant of that word. And I say that because it's mandatory that every single child go to school until they're 16. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Unless they're homeschooled.
But they have to be in school, and it's a certain criteria curriculum that has to be taught, no matter homeschool or public school, right?
No, not necessarily.
Yep.
But
Okay, well, you're the
homeschool
teacher,
does
so you
differ
let me
from.
know.
Well, what I'm saying is that there are definitely certain standards that you need to be able to graduate, and I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but
Well, my point is, what I was trying to get to is that pretty much no matter what, almost no matter what grade, what level of education you're going through, whether it's primary or secondary, you're going to learn about the history of the U.S. And that's one of the main things that's talked about, no matter what grade level you're being educated on. So I find it extremely hard for a certain person to be ignorant about that particular word because it's taught in pretty much every level of education. And like I said, it's mandatory for every child to go to school at least until they're 16. So I just find it, I can't really wrap my head around the fact that somebody would be ignorant to that word.
mm. Well, I
Yeah.
think that I think my perspective is that um, people may be able to recognize that word. I don't know if that's what you're talking about. Is if they see that word, do they recognize it? But do they actually understand the context that has came along with that word throughout history? And I would tell you, Brian, I work in the high school, and the students don't
Hmm.
understand what comes along with that word and the history that comes along with that word. And I've heard that word, and I kick them out of my training clinic when I hear that word because they don't understand what came along with that word. And I ask them, I say, do you understand what you're saying? And they tell me no. So they may be able to
Are you saying this
recognize
to black
that.
people?
Right, that was my question. Are you talking about African Americans or are you talking about other races?
I'm talking about other races.
My thing on that is they've been educated on it, so how can they know? Like, are they mentally challenged or something? How can they not know if they've been educated on it? Like, they spend course after course after course on that particular topic. So how aren't they educated on it?
Are they
Are they
educated
ignorant about it,
to?
or are they turning a blind eye to it? Is my question.
So education, number one is when you say educated, okay, educated can mean, for instance, if I see 1 plus 1, okay, 1 plus
Hmm.
1, you're going to probably automatically know and recognize that 1 plus 1 equals 2. But do you actually
Hmm.
understand the arithmetic that goes along with what 1 plus 1 and y equals 2? And that's what I'm saying is that, yeah, the students are educated on, what black history is as far as in American, or America's terms, what black history is and what it means. But do they actually understand the depth of knowledge and what that term means? And I'm going back to when I was in middle school and when I was in high school. I really didn't learn about the actual acts of what was going on in the 1930s and 1940s really until I researched it myself. I kind of learned the
Hmm.
general Black American history that was associated with the term Negro. I didn't learn about Willie Lynch letter until I was 18 years old by a gentleman or a dentist that I knew that I used to want to be a dentist. His name was Dr. Franklin. Okay. He told me to read the Willie Lynch letter. So what I'm saying is the depth of knowledge that our young people have today, do they actually understand what that term means? And I think that they may recognize it, but they truly don't understand what comes along with that term. And for that reason, I will not use that term myself because I can say, hey, Brian, my brother, and really feel that same type of empowerment as if I said the N word. That's just my
Okay.
perspective.
Well, Eddie, let me ask you this. You said that you had a bit of education on certain topics, but you didn't get a full understanding until you started researching for yourself. So can you really consider yourself ignorant of it if you have knowledge of it?
Um,
Because and
when
I'm okay to I guess bring it back to a broader instance. if my wife tells me, Brian, I want you to show more affection. Typically, me as a man, I'm not used to showing affection. That's not my nature. But she has peeled that layer of pureness back from me. So she's opened the door for me to be so I can no longer say I'm ignorant of it, if that makes sense. So by her introducing that to me, I can no longer say that I'm ignorant of it. Maybe I need a little bit more education of it or a bit more understanding of what she wants, but I'm no longer ignorant of what she wants. You see what I'm saying?
So to me, the word ignorance means you're not considering a true level of knowledge about a specific issue. Like you're ignorant to the fact that something may exist. All right. So basically, you're placing a blind eye to it. So I think
right. That's what I asked you.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that no, I don't think that young people are ignorant to what the term is as far as recognition, but I still don't think that they truly understand what came along with that term and how it's used today.
Yeah.
And who are you talking about though? Are you talking about blacks or are you talking about other races?
I'm talking about everyone, and I've seen it with blacks. I've seen it with, really any type of ethnicity. From my perspective in high school, they really don't understand what came along with that word. The only thing that they see is wrong with that word is because I'm not black, I can't use it. Like that's what they have literally told me when we've kind of had these sad conversations, or they have these conversations and I overhear them rather, is probably what happens most likely. Is because I'm not black, I can't use it. So that's what I'm saying.
Let me ask you something.
They're not ignorant. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. When you were young, when you was a kid, did you curse around your parents?
No.
Why? I'm pretty sure you didn't know what the words meant, but why didn't you do it?
Why didn't I curse around my parents? Because it was disrespectful?
Because you knew it was something you don't say.
That's my whole point. But you did around your friends though, right?
You say what now?
But you cursed around when it was just you and your friends.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess you could say that.
Oh, exactly. That's my whole point. It's okay in certain situations around certain people, but once you get around that certain people that it's not okay for, no questions asked. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't see other races just walking around willy-nilly just saying it like, hey, they don't do it like that. If they're saying it to be disrespectful, and because sometimes you get in instances where they might try to say it just, and you can tell that it's being said to see, hey, are they gonna get upset? Can I get by? Or are they gonna give me a pass? It's not just one of those words that other races use just freely like any other term in the dictionary.
How do you?
Yeah, I agree with you, Cole. I mean, I think if other races are saying it, they kind of know that even if they don't know the origin or why people say it, or they know that it's something that can be used or thought of as disrespectful. And when black people say it, I mean, I do agree. Maybe black people don't realize like the pain and that kind of thing that older generations got from hearing that word, or whatever chills may have ran up their spine when they heard that word, somebody calling them that word. Like, I'm not discounting that either. However, the longer you keep a negative connotation on anything, the word is going to exist forever. The word is never going to go away. Like, it's a word, it's out there now. But what does that word mean? I mean, if you always make it to mean a negative thing, then yeah, you would always be offended or, always have it to cause hurt. I mean, again, when other people say it, I do feel like they say it to try to get at you or to get under your skin or whatever. But I just feel like the longer we leave that connotation on it, it's going to be worse.
And like I said, back to the use of the B word, like, it's been plenty of situations where a dude would get mad at a female and they in the presence of that female and they're like, oh, I started to call you something. Okay, well, say it then. Like, go ahead and say it. If it's just another word, go ahead and say it and see where it gets you. Like, but on the flip side, girls, it's just like how dudes or the black culture uses the N word. Like, you know, like it's certain words and certain situations that you can use around certain people. And if you're not around those, if you are around those people, you better not use it.
Hey, and you know what, fellas? That's what this podcast is all about, man. Just regular folks, man, just talking about regular stuff, man. So we can agree to disagree, but it's all good in having a conversation, man. So, but with that being said, man, we can wrap up this episode of Everyday Talk. Hey, Ed, if you'll give us a little sneak preview on what we're going to discuss next week.
Yeah, definitely, ARice. One of the things that we're going to discuss next week, I think it'll be a good topic, is we're going to talk about our NFL salaries and how does NFL salaries match up with other major league sports that we have in the United States or also in other countries, okay? Why are the salaries of NFL players so much more lower as compared to other sports organizations? I think it'll make for some good talk.
All right, people. So y'all heard it, man. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned. Just a tidbit. You are able to listen to us through Anchor, Google Play, iTunes, and I think more importantly through YouTube. So if you go to our YouTube page, please like and subscribe, and we'll get y'all on the flip side. I'll let y'all in a week.
We don't know the meaning of drought because we keep it so wet. Why swear now? It's been a while. Just speaking in general, but there is no formidable opponent or air nigga that want it. Pure uncut, never step on it. Line for line, dope when you wanna hit. Mind the kind of give a nigga hope when they down and out. Nigga dig a hole so deep, ain't no climbing out. Yeah, I hear him talking.